So the future of the dentist-lab collaboration, to explain my vision of this collaboration, I like to divide this collaboration into 4 moments. When people think about dentist-lab collaboration, they're usually thinking about what I call the CAD collaboration and the CAM collaboration, meaning using a lab to design a restoration and using a lab to manufacture a restoration. And that is true. Labs are the ones helping dentists on these 2 moments. And I say 2 moments because more and more we see people, not necessarily you need to do the CAD design on the same place that you do the CAM manufacturing. More and more you're going to have this flexibility of maybe outsourcing the CAD design and in-housing the CAM manufacturing, or using a more sophisticated lab to do a high-end design of a prosthesis or a device, and using a more production line type of lab to manufacture it. So the first change that is happening here is that historically we thought about small labs, high quality, big labs, low quality. Digital is flipping this story because at least on the CAM side, manufacturing side, the bigger you are, the more volume you have, the better machines you have, the better know-how on manufacturing you have. Because of the volume, you become better and better with manufacturing. So manufacturing restorations, more and more we're going to see big centers delivering better quality, faster turnaround time, more efficiency, more consistency, more precision, because the volume and the expertise as a factory, it's becoming a factory, will allow you to do so. And as a small lab, you're going to struggle more. You're not going to have machine redundance. You're not going to be able to invest on every year the best machinery, the best technology. You don't have the volume that allows you the experience to understand different cases, different situations, different type of restorations. If a small lab does 5, 10, 20 units of a specific type of design per month, a big lab is doing 2,000 maybe of that same situation, of course, making these people that work on these big labs much more experienced. And then also big labs are much more focused on profitability and efficiency, meaning that they're going to troubleshoot the mistakes much better, and they're going to want to fix the process. It's going to become a much more professional thing. So the CAM relationship, you need to first divide from CAD, and you need to take advantage as a dentist of the fact that the address doesn't matter anymore. And you can work with CAD high-end, because the design, regardless of AI is going to, of course, start to design the most simple things automatically. But when it comes to high-end prosthesis, high-end full mouth rehabilitation, veneer cases, cosmetic cases, smile design cases, functional occlusion cases, there's still a lot of know-how that a good technician can bring that a big lab will probably struggle, that AI is still far away from it. So that's the reason why I like to divide CAD from CAM. So you want to collaborate with very high-end CAD knowledgeable designers, technicians, like high-end technicians. This is where high-end technicians will be. At the moment of designing these amazing restorations, there's so much to know in terms of relationship with the gum, relationship with the bite, how to overcome limitations of the case, how to handle soft tissue defects, how to distribute proportions, morphology, texture, line angles, optical illusions, light reflection, and I can go on and on and on what means being an amazing technician. So the concept of being an amazing technician will be now redirected to this moment of CAD design, different completely than the know-how on CAM. Now, these are 2 moments, and I mentioned that there are actually 4 moments. So let's understand the 4 moments of collaboration. Collaboration moment number 1, it's what I call the exploration moment. More and more labs will realize that dentists desperately need our lab help on the exploration phase. What is the exploration phase? Pre-case acceptance, new patients, before we know the treatment plan, how do you collaborate with your lab to allow the lab to leverage the technology, to allow you as a dentist to diagnose better, treatment plan better, and create the visuals to sell the case. So the exploration phase is basically diagnose, simulate, plan, and sell. When I talk about plan, I'm talking about treatment planning. Moment 1 is exploration, treatment planning, and selling. And usually when people talk about treatment planning, oh yes, I use digital to treatment plan. Yes, I treatment plan with my lab. They're usually referring to what I call procedure planning. Okay, so this is a big, important differentiation that we need to make, because people get confused and then you don't take full advantage of your lab and digital if you don't understand this. Procedure planning is what everybody's doing with digital. It's planning the surgery with digital, planning the ortho with digital, planning the restoration with digital. Treatment planning is when you're planning the whole case together. You're exploring the possibilities and understanding what procedures are needed. That's why treatment planning happens before you sell the case. Procedure planning happens after you sold the case. Of course, that all the files and simulations that you did on the treatment planning moment, you can import into the procedure planning moment. There's even different softwares here, and you can even do these 2 moments with different labs. The DSD Planning Center is an exploration center, is an interdisciplinary planning center, and some labs are trying to become this as well. Some companies are trying to become this as well. So what you want from a lab on this moment is interdisciplinary know-how. It's understanding that on the treatment planning moment, we don't need to go deep into details of each procedure. We want to see the big picture. Do we need ortho? Yes or no? More or less, how much? How complicated it is? Do we need crown lengthening? Yes or no? Do we need to graft? Yes or no? Do we need to change the vertical dimension? Yes or no? Do we need to restore? Yes or no? Which teeth? What type of restorations? This big picture exploration, and then the impact of one procedure over the other. If we're going to do crown lengthening and ortho, how do I adapt my ortho to the crown lengthening? How do I adapt crown lengthening to the ortho? How do I adapt the restorations if I'm going to do ortho? How do I design the restorations if I'm not going to do ortho? If I'm going to do ortho and open the vertical dimension, how this opening changed the ortho? How the ortho changed the opening of the vertical? So all these implants in between and all types of procedures and how one impacts the other. That's why you want to work with the lab that has software that can simulate all the specialties on the same software. And you want to work with labs that understands how modern treatment planning starts. So facially driven treatment planning, airway driven treatment planning, TMJ driven treatment planning. And you want to be able to understand all these things. You want to work with a lab that understands all these concepts, understand smile designs, and understand how to use software to simulate all these things. You want to work with a lab that understands how to generate visuals for you to communicate better with your orthodontist, your periodontist, to make better decisions as a team. And you want a lab that provides you with visuals that helps you increase case acceptance. That's moment one. That's the exploration phase: diagnose, plan, simulate, and sell. For me, this is a completely new and powerful moment that every dentist needs to start exploring with the lab. Moment 1. Case is sold. Now comes moment 2. And moment 2 is procedure planning. Now that we know the plan, now that the patient already accepted the plan, now that we know that we're going to start with ortho, then we're going to do crown lengthening, and then we're going to do the restorations, or start with ortho, then place the implants, and then do the restorations. Now we want to work with the lab that understands very well each one of these procedures. So you may work with doing procedure ortho planning with one lab. You may do surgical implant procedure planning with a different lab. And you may do restorative planning with an even different lab, right? You may do the procedure implant planning with the implant company, because implant companies are now providing procedure planning services. You may do the ortho planning with an aligner company, because that's what aligner companies do. They plan the procedure for you. Some labs are starting to plan ortho as well. Some labs are even starting to manufacture their own aligners, so they're becoming aligner companies. So you see that everybody is trying to become everything. And that's why it's very important to differentiate these moments, because you need to choose your labs in each one of these moments. So now you have one exploration lab first, somebody that has a lab that understands very well the comprehensiveness of exploration and visual communication. Then you may have another lab for ortho planning, another one for surgical planning, another one for restorative planning. That's moment 2. Then you go into the known CAD-CAM. CAD is moment 3, and CAM is moment 4. So moment 3 is, okay, I did my exploration, I did my whole treatment planning, and I sold my case, helped by lab 1. Then I plan my orthodontics with a lab that is expert on orthodontics, moment 2. And now I'm going to manufacture my aligners with a third party, moment 3. Or I planned my surgery, and now I'm going to manufacture my guides. So moment 2 is procedure planning. Moment 3 is basically designing devices. Usually, moment 2 and 3 are on the same place, right? You plan the ortho and you design the device with the same entity. You plan your surgery and you design your guides and abutments and whatever on the same entity. You plan your restorations and you design your restorations with the same entity. But it's very important to understand that even if it's the same lab, it's 2 different departments in the lab, right? Planning the procedure and designing the devices, aligners, or restorations. Moment 2 and moment 3. And it's important to understand this differentiation because we also understand the flexibility. Who is doing moment 2 for me and who's doing moment 3? What type of know-how we need to know to be very good at moment 2, planning the procedure, that is different than being good at moment 3, designing the device to perform the procedure that we planned, right? So you plan the crown lengthening and then you design a crown lengthening guide. You plan a restoration and then you design the restoration. You plan the implant and then you design the guides and abutments, etc. You plan the ortho and then you design the appliances. So moment 2, plan the procedure. Moment 3, design the devices, one or more devices that you need to perform that procedure. And then moment 4 is CAM, manufacturing. So different softwares. Then it's about understanding the machinery, understanding how to calibrate the settings of the machines, understanding how to position the device in the block, in the system that you're going to manufacture, understanding the materials that you need to use. It's machinery. If it's printers or milling machines, that's moment 4, and it's a completely different know-how. So moment 1, know-how, exploration, comprehensive treatment planning. Moment 2, know-how is specific procedure planning know-how. Moment 3, know-how is device design based on that plan know-how. And moment 4 is machinery know-how. So now, by understanding this, you're going to look at the lab in a completely different way. You're going to realize that some labs are very good at moment 1, not very good at moment 2. Some labs are very good on moment 2 and 3, not very good on moment 4. Some labs are very good at moment 4, but are not very good at moment 2, more or less on moment 3, and have nothing on moment 1. And you will start to realize your ideal partnerships into the future, because the modern dentist is the one that understands these 4 moments, and it's the one that makes smart partnerships in all of these 4 moments to get the best out of the technology, get the best out of these collaborations, and of course, get the best result at the end. To take the best out of each one of these moments, what are you looking for, right? What do you want? How do you choose the best partner on each one of these moments? As I said before, moment 1, you want to partner up with a lab that basically is hiring treatment planners, a lab that is hiring dentists, a lab that has a periodontist, an orthodontist, a surgeon, a prosthodontist in their payroll, a lab that loves interdisciplinary treatment planning, a lab that understands facially driven design, a lab that understands airway, a lab that understands TMJ. Basically, these are the 3 concepts that helps us this initial exploration. A lab that understands how to simulate possible ortho based on a diagnostic design, possible perio implants based on the diagnostic design, possible bite changes and restorations based on this diagnostic design. These are the questions that you need to ask to understand if the lab understands these things that I had just pointed out. Exactly these. On moment 2 and 3, it's much more specialized. You don't need to explore anymore because you already did. You don't need to define the plan, you already did. So you're not treatment planning anymore, you're procedure planning. Now you really want to ask yourself, what is my best ortho partner, my best surgical partner, and my best restorative partner? Usually labs that are very good with restorative are not necessarily very good with planning surgery, and even less good with planning orthodontics, right? On the exploration phase, the ortho perio restorative was a big picture exploration. So you want to talk to big picture thinkers, treatment planners. On moment 2, you want to talk to specialists. So you want to talk, on the ortho world, you want to talk to a lab that has an expert specifically on aligners, on aligner software, aligner planning, staging, aligner biomechanics. Somebody that is going to take that big picture ortho simulation, initial suggestion, and will be able to plan specifically and help you plan specifically the biomechanics of the movement, each aligner, to really give you the best possible outcome with that aligner system. Of course, that on the ortho, you're talking basically with aligner companies. Aligner companies are nothing more than digital ortho labs moment 2 and 3, right? Digital labs moment 2 and 3, it's an aligner company. It's a lab. It's a lab that only plans ortho, that helps you understand exactly the plan for ortho, design the device, and manufacture the device. So moments 2, 3, and 4. As I said, many labs are seeing the opportunity of becoming aligner companies, basically buying printers, buying ortho software, and hiring orthodontists, and they are then planning the ortho, designing the devices, and manufacturing the devices. So they become ortho companies as well. So the same way that implant companies are becoming labs as well. Moment 2, 3, and 4 related to implants. So implant companies are starting to build planning services. They call it treatment planning. It's wrong. It's not treatment planning. It's procedure planning, because they're helping you plan the implant procedure. Hopefully you already did your homework with the treatment planning, and you already have a diagnostic facially driven design that the implant company can use as a reference to then plan the implant specifically and design the restorations over the implant, or at least design the the abutments for you or the guides and so on, right? So implant companies are becoming procedure planning, implant planning services. So they're taking care of this type moment 2, 3, giving you the files, and you are printing the guide. So you're performing moment 4. Usually dentists, when it comes to printing, the moment 4, manufacturing the CAM, is coming back to you. So you outsource, usually since almost nobody is doing moment 1, unfortunately, usually you dentists, you're on your own on moment 1. Then you outsource number 2 and 3 to labs, implant companies, and aligner companies. And then you bring everything that is printed in-house and you become the moment 4 yourself. Some dentists are buying milling machines and they're bringing moment 4 in-house for milled devices as well, some restorations and so on. So on moment 2 and 3, that's what you want. You want very specific know-how from the providers on the ortho world, perio implant world, and restorative world. Okay? And then moment 4, as I explained at the beginning, we see the trend of bringing in-house printing. I think that moment 4 printing is an in-house dentist thing. Less and less it makes sense for labs to print stuff and ship these things, printed devices, because printers are so affordable, pretty easy to use, and very easy to handle. So printing is becoming in-house. Milling, it's a different story. It still makes sense for you to find a great milling partner, right? Aligners, it still makes total sense. You know, some dentists are even printing some aligners chairside. It's kind of a trend, but it's still worth for you to find an ortho lab known as an aligner company and find a very good milling center to mill your stuff. So moment 4, outsourced. And as I said at the beginning, when it comes to milling, quality is not the boutique, small, etc., what we used to classify as quality manufacturing in labs, old school. Try to change that thinking process, because nowadays the bigger the lab, usually the better they are with manufacturing. So you want to send your moment 3 to a very high-end boutique lab, yes, the design, and you want to then outsource manufacturing to a big manufacturing center, high precision, super affordable. You take the best of the both worlds. So in this collaboration, dentist with lab, why moving from analog to digital? Why digital is better? I think that the first thing that we need to state is that we did analog dentistry without digital for many years. And we did amazing work without technology. We did amazing work without technology. So we need to acknowledge that and ask ourselves, you know, if I'm doing great with analog, why go digital? What are the real benefits of this transition? So it's not that analog was bad and digital is good. Is how can we make our life easier in minimizing risks and probabilities and chances of mistakes because we use digital. And we need to understand why with digital that's actually the case. The first thing is that since we've been doing analog for so many years, we became very good at it. At this point in time, the good analog dentists are at the maximum performance level that analog can give. We've been doing it for decades. So it's very natural that once we start using digital, we struggle and we think it's not that good because it's new. I think that people sometimes lose perspective of things and end up judging new ways of doing things because they're just not used to it. And we forget how it was for us to learn the analog way when we started. So I always like to use some examples. People say, look, scanners don't work, or I'm struggling to make the scanner doesn't give me the same quality of models that I have with my old impressions. My answer to dentists is usually, do you remember the first time you did an analog impression in your life? Coming straight out of dental school. And do you remember how bad it was? I can guarantee it was a disaster. Not only it was a disaster, the first one, but the second one as well. Probably the third, the 10th, probably the first 100 were not good at all. It probably took you more than a year to start making okay impressions. And even then, once in a while, it wouldn't work. And still today, after you dentists doing these impressions for 30 years and becoming the best you could ever imagine with the conventional impression, still today, making impressions is still hard, and you still do mistakes, and you still have impressions that are not good. So now you have a scanner, and you're telling me that you tried and it doesn't work. And I ask you, how many times you tried? Did you try 100 times? Did you do 100 scans of complex prep cases? And now you're saying that after 100 tries, you don't think it's good? And the answer from the dentist is usually, no, I didn't try 100. I did 5 or 6. And I'm judging it. And I'm struggling with it and judging it after 5, 6, whatever. So it's pretty obvious. Our memory, thank God, our human memory usually deletes the suffering and keeps the joy of the past. And that's why we always think that, many times in life the past was better, or, it used to be better when we were young, etc., blah, blah, blah. It's our brain playing tricks. So no, analog is not better than digital. And yes, digital is better than analog, period. I'm not going to even waste much time here discussing this because it's so obvious. Now, I'm going to give you some examples, specifically on the collaboration. When you use complete digital workflows, it means that your patient becomes a digital entity. It means that your lab has your patient in front of them. And that was always my dream as a technician. And that's why I always loved to work as a technician in-house, in the practice. And I was always a privileged technician because I was able to always work as a technician inside a dental clinic. And because I was inside a dental clinic, I was myself seeing the patients first, second appointment because the dentist was calling me in. I was then trying my ceramics myself with the dentist because the patient was there. I was in-house technician. I was listening to the patient. I was understanding the patient. I was looking at the result of my work in the mouth. I was seeing in real time in the mouth what worked, what didn't work, how to do better next time. So, as I always say, working with digital workflows is like having an in-house technician without having an in-house technician. Because having an in-house technician is extremely expensive for a dentist, besides the fact that you need to really create a business partnership, a business relationship, dentist-technician, that is usually very hard as well to happen. Very expensive and very emotionally intense. So with digital, you have the best of both worlds. You don't need to hire a technician. You don't need to have an in-house lab. You can work with the best ceramists in the world from a distance, but keep the benefits that an in-house technician has. Basically by transforming your patient into a digital avatar first. Second, by transforming your smartphone into the third eye of your technician, allowing them to see everything that is happening, even in real time if you want, or on demand afterwards, by recording everything that is happening, taking quick pictures, quick videos, talking to the camera, and immediately sharing them. Through the patient avatar in the lab, we can do all these simulations and communicate with the dentist through visuals. So asynchronous communication is only possible with digital. Visual communication is only possible with digital. As I always say, the worst way to talk to a technician about a case is through the phone. It's a disaster. How many times in my career I had these crazy conversations on the phone with dentists, trying to understand what was going on through the phone. It makes absolutely no sense, since nowadays we have digital tools, digital simulations, digital cameras, digital videos, images, asynchronous chat, communication systems. It's so obvious that once we digitalize the process of data acquisition, data processing, digital simulations, digital communication, that we can go straight to the point and really understand what is right and what is wrong. Digital allows us to create these key validation moments in the restorative journey, meaning that all these moments that are key moments that are usually when we make mistakes and usually when things go wrong, right? What are the moments between you and your lab that generates the most amount of problems to you, dentist? If you never asked this question, you should ask this question. What are the key moments on the process of rehabilitating a smile that are the most important generators of mistakes, problems, waste of time, waste of money? I can name a few. Usually defining the finishing line of the prep is one. Approving the diagnostic design, facially driven, is another one. Approving the restoration design. Approving the manufactured device. These are moments that in the past you could only do if you had an in-house lab. Meaning, you make impressions of a patient, send to the lab does the wax up, old days, old school, wax up, and you tell the lab, when you finish the wax up, bring the articulator to me, let me take a look, right? That's what we used to do. This is impossible if you don't have an in-house lab, and even if you have an in-house lab, just wasting the time to walk and find, because usually when you have your 5 minutes free, the technician doesn't have the same 5 minutes free at the same time. So even in-house, you struggle to be able to communicate on that key moment. I want to approve the wax up before we do anything. Ideal world is that the dentist should approve that wax up. Now with digital, solve the problem. You digitalize your patient, one click. This is on the other side of the world with the best smile design lab of the world. They do that quick diagnostic design because it's much faster to do a design on the software than to do handmade. One click, that design link comes to your iPhone. You can be in vacation, you can be at home, you can be in between patients, it doesn't matter. In an on-demand, asynchronous way, you can click, you can visualize that design, you can see the patient's face. It's like having the wax up in the patient's mouth in front of you. It's like having the patient with you and the lab with you any moment through the process. And validate that diagnostic design, right? Next moment, you prep your teeth and you want your lab to approve your prep. You want you and your lab to be on the same page. Is the prep good enough? Is the finishing line visible? Do you see the finishing line where I see the finishing line? Are we on the same page? How important is this? In the old days, I remember I used to trim the dies to the technician, to the dentist. I would, with the pencil, demarcate the margins tooth by tooth and stop. Take that case, walk to the dentist, put the box beside the dentist, wait until the dentist has a gap. The dentist will come, hopefully under the microscope, under the loops, analyze my pencil demarcation of the finishing line, approve all of them for me to go back to the lab and start designing the restoration, handmade restoration. This is only possible if you have an in-house lab, and if you have those same 5 minutes, you and the lab simultaneously, synchronized. So almost impossible to do that ideally for every single case. If you have a digital workflow, problem solved, right? We demarcate that digitally, one click, back into your pocket. You open that link whenever you want. You check the margins. You identify mistakes. You zoom in. You fix that demarcation. You draw that line. You reposition that line. You redraw that line. One click, back to the lab. We fix the problem. We move on. There's the same thing with designs. Any design. If it's an ortho setup that we are doing for you, if it's a surgical planning that we are doing for you, if it's an implant planning, if it's a restoration design, if it's an abutment design, everything, you know things that we don't know, we know things that you don't know. You should try to be in charge as much as you can without wasting time. The only way for you to validate all these devices, these designs from a restoration, veneer, full mouth rehabilitation, denture, there's so many details that we want to make sure that we both sides agree. And again, only possible if it's complete digital workflows. Because nowadays you can have these viewers, CAD software viewers on your phone. We can send this link into your phone, and again, you can be on the other side of the world doing whatever. You get the notification, you go, you check, you see, you go through your checklist, you validate or you make observations, ask for modifications, one click, back to the lab. We don't need to bother you. We see, it's visual. It's not a phone conversation. It's visual. It's asynchronous visual communication. We follow exactly your orders and your modifications, requests. We modify them and we manufacture whatever. And then we have the final moment where we can then take these pictures and videos of what we manufactured, upload back into your pocket, into your phone. You get the notification, you open, you look at those beautiful pictures and videos of what we just did for you. This is your last chance to make any observations. You approve them, we put it in the box, we ship it to you. So to not realize the power of full digital workflow, it's really insane, right? And if you're not comfortable yet with full digital workflows, the question is how fast you can learn and who can help you understand your bottlenecks and teach you how to master digital workflows. It's impossible to be effective in the modern world without being a digital dentist and without working with a real digital lab. Period. Another way to put it, another very good way to put it is analog to digital, uncertainty to predictable, right? Analog is uncertain. It doesn't matter if you're the best dentist in the world and you work with the best ceramist in the world. We know it's uncertain. And every time you have a big case, the try-in appointment is the representation of this uncertainty. The try-in is always a big surprise. And of course that the better analog dentist technician you become, we've been working hard to minimize that surprise. But the fact is that it's impossible to eliminate all the uncertainties with analog processes. For me, the biggest representation of the predictability of digital workflows is what we call the copy-paste concept. If you approve a design, you copy-paste, and that's the result you get. If you approve an implant position, you copy-paste, that's the implant position that you get. If you approve an orthodontic outcome, copy-paste, that's the ortho outcome, at least very similar ortho outcome that you get. If you design a crown lengthening, you copy-paste, that's the outcome that you get. If you use digital planning and you use guided dentistry by printing all these devices. So the movement from uncertainty analog to predictable digital. It's a very good way to summarize the benefits of going digital. And the fact that we all know in the analog days that it doesn't matter how good you are, every time you're trying in final restorations, the bigger the case is, the more uncertainties you have. We realize that this is a reality. The challenges of this collaboration made me define not getting what you want from your lab, one of the three major stress points for dentists. So I usually say that modern dentists have three major challenges. One is simplifying comprehensive planning. The other one is making patients value your efforts, not take you for granted. And number three is getting what you want from your lab. Imagine a world where you would solve these three problems, right? Make comprehensive treatment planning a simple process. Make every patient value your efforts. And eliminate the issues with your lab and get consistently what you want and what you deserve from your lab. So getting what you want from your lab is a big challenge in dentistry. And, you know, with all the digital tools that we have, certain mistakes shouldn't be accepted anymore. From the dentist towards the technician and from the technician towards the dentist. For example, we shouldn't tolerate anymore preps that don't have space. Technicians shouldn't tolerate that anymore from dentists. Because your scanner gives you exactly the clearance chair side, and it makes no sense for you to send a file without space if you're seeing chair side and the scanner is almost screaming at you, there's no space here, even with colors and measurements that some scanners give you, right? So that's an example of something that labs shouldn't tolerate. Labs shouldn't tolerate prep margins that are not visible. If you don't see chair side, the lab's not going to see it anymore. We shouldn't tolerate that anymore. We shouldn't tolerate preps that don't have path of insertion because you can see chair side and fix that. So it makes no sense for a lab to accept and have to compromise the quality of the restoration because you didn't prep properly and you generated an undercut or a problem with the path of insertion. So there's a bunch of things that we shouldn't tolerate in the lab from the dentist and vice versa, right? If you're doing your job as a dentist and digitalizing your patient, we shouldn't tolerate rehabilitations that have a canted midline. We shouldn't tolerate a case that have a canted occlusal plane. We shouldn't tolerate a case that the incisal edge is not in harmony with the lips. The design is not considering the lips. Why? You as a dentist shouldn't tolerate that. Because if you are doing facial pictures of facial scans and sending this information to the lab, it's up to the lab to create this facial information in the software and create designs. If it's a diagnostic design, if it's a restoration design, or if it's an ortho setup, it doesn't matter, not falling in the face. Creating designs that are not in harmony with the face, it's unacceptable today. If you're digitalizing your patient and your lab understands how to use the face in the software, it's just unacceptable. Also unacceptable, if you do a provisional and you approve a provisional, meaning you approved a prototype, if it's a mock-up or a provisional, and you put the energy to adjust it, make it ideal, patient approves, you approve that, and you scan that provisional. It's unacceptable that the lab doesn't know how to copy-paste that information and manufacture final restorations that are exactly identical to the provisional, or at least copying the parts of the provisionals that you told the lab to copy and improving the other areas that you told the lab to improve. So you may say, please improve the buccal morphology and texture, but respect the incisal edge and embrasures of my provisional. And we should copy-paste that exactly. Please improve the morphology of the crown, but respect the Pontic design that I developed with my provisional that is conditioning the tissue ideally. Please respect the submergence profile of my provisional, the emergence profile of my provisional when you manufacture the restoration. Copy paste that into the finals. So when I take the provisional and I put your restoration in, it's exactly, absolutely the same. Please copy paste the occlusion that I was able to achieve with my prototype after many sessions of adjustments to make this prototype functioning well and the patient is comfortable. Please respect that, copy paste that occlusion relationship and design. It's unacceptable that the lab doesn't use the right technology to copy paste that occlusal design and respects the occlusion that you developed on your prototype. These are some of the things that I believe that through digital smile design, copy-paste concepts, natural libraries, digital articulators, face in the software, all these principles are allowing labs to not make these common mistakes. By the way, these are super normal, common mistakes in the analog days that were so common that became part of the process. That the try-ins and the adjustments and the intraoral work that we needed to do as dentists to fine-tune all these things that we couldn't guarantee precision in the lab in the analog days became the normal until yesterday, and now should not be the normal anymore if you are a real digital dentist and you work with a real digital lab. There's a couple of things I think labs many times either don't have the experience or the courage to tell the dentist, or the fear of losing the account, losing the business, or for any of these reasons above, that I usually tell dentists, one amazing thing that you should do is to make your lab completely comfortable to tell you everything about your own work. Really giving the lab this confidence to give you every feedback. Even if many times we have to work with compromised situations and many times the dentist cannot redo or fix the situation and we just need to do the best we can, but learning and listening to the feedback will allow us to at least improve for next time. Another great advantage of making your lab comfortable telling you anything is that your lab is going to treat you much better. The lab is going to put you at their priority list. One secret here is that one thing that I can tell you that labs don't usually tell you is that every technician has a priority list in their mind, conscious or unconscious, of the dentist that they like most and the dentist that they don't like. So 95% of the dentists they don't like, 5% of the dentists they like a lot. And there's a couple of things that makes a technician like a dentist. I'm not saying that the technician is perfect and the dentist isn't perfect. It's just the way technicians operate, right? When they feel the dentist cares about them, when they feel that the dentist is caring about details, when they feel like the dentist is open for feedback, when they feel like the dentist is giving feedback back, positive feedback, right? How many times a technician sends a case, sends a message, doctor, we're sending the case, all the best luck, let me know how it goes. 1 week goes by, 2 weeks go by, a month goes by, no feedback. Technician, what happened, doctor? Oh, it did work, was fine, all good. Technician is pissed. Say, I was here struggling every night, having nightmares, thinking it didn't work, it didn't work, it didn't work. Just one example. So how, let's put it like this. An amazing strategy for a dentist is to learn what are the things that will make you, dentist, be at the top 5% priority list of your technician. How do you become the top 5 preferred dentist of your technician? This is one of the best things that a restorative dentist should do. If you're a restorative dentist, a big part of your success depends on your lab. A big part of your comfort, of your income, of you sleeping at night happily, joyfully, comes from your lab. So investing on this relationship is key, and I never understood why dentists don't really invest the extra mile. For example, asking this question. It's not enough just to be nice and polite and to follow the protocols and the rules. This is what I would say, the top 30% of the dentists. You are at the top 30. Because the bottom 60, 70, these are the disaster. The dentists that technicians are like, I want to run away from it, right? So how do you go? If you're a good dentist, well-intentioned dentist, you have a decent relationship with your lab, you are at the top 30, I'm challenging you on how to become at the top 5. Because the top 5 are the ones, because from every 100 cases, we're going to have those 5 cases that we're going to make them look amazing, right? And we cannot do that for 100 cases. We do that for 5. Every 105 cases, amazing, for the 5 top %. So how do we become part of this group, right? So one thing is allowing your technician to say everything, accepting feedback positively, not being defensive, not giving excuses, right? Showing that you care with details. Good technicians are naturally into details. People that are into details, they love to interact with people that are into details. So if you don't care about details, your good technician will also start not caring about details on your cases. As simple as that. Caring about details, for example, means that you care about taking a good picture of your patient, facial picture on the right angle. I would say that 2/3 of facial pictures that we get in the lab are not good. 2/3 of people don't care. Maybe because they think that the facial picture is not that important. Most dentists don't care about their provisionals and their prototypes. Too many dentists don't care about conditioning the soft tissues properly to have nice soft tissues, nice visibility on the finishing lines, nice impressions, nice scans. Caring about the details. Sharing proper information. It's not like veneers from molar to molar, A1. Thank you. This is a dentist that doesn't care about details. What are the nuances? You need to stop for a few minutes, think about the case, close your eyes, and imagine what are the things, what are the details that can really bring the difference to this case? How can I express this? More than words, how can I express this with visuals, with images, with pictures, with drawing? How can I draw with my fingers over the pictures with colors to explain to my technician the possible challenges of this case and how do we think we can overcome them? Caring about communication, visual communication. Putting energy to develop a visual communication strategy with your lab. Using visual communication platforms and make it a routine. As I said, communicating with the lab via phone is the worst way possible to communicate. Don't do that. So I think many labs would listen to what I'm saying and would say, yes, I always wanted to say this to my dentist. Couldn't say it for any reason. I'm glad you're saying it. Many dentists, many labs will love to tell you when your preps are not good. Many labs would love to tell you when they don't see the finishing line and they don't want to And they don't feel like it's fair with the patient. I would say good technicians are looking at cases and saying, this is not fair for the patient. And many times the dentist is not giving the opening, and the technician is doing the case anyway, one after the other, until the moment that the technician consciously or unconsciously will think, this dentist probably doesn't care about the patient. So why should I care about the extra mile, polishing that extra corner, creating that extra fit, caring about that extra angle, putting that extra aesthetic know-how input into the case, doing that extra texture, caring about that extra stain and glaze technique? It's all about that extra little detail to bring a good restoration to become an amazing, great restoration. It's that extra final 1%, 10% effort. As I said, technicians will give that extra effort on a few cases and will not put that extra effort on the majority of cases. And most of the time, it's even unconscious. They look at the lab slip, they look at the name, they connect the name to the dentist, and that will drive their effort many times, as I said, even unconsciously. So based on absolutely everything that I explained previously, why working with the DSD lab? The first obvious factor here is that if I'm talking about all these issues and I'm daily running the DSD lab myself, it means that we are a lab that is aware of all these things that I just said. The DSD lab in relationship with the 4 moments, right? I mentioned 4 moments that a lab can help a dentist in 4 different ways. Moment 1, the exploration, interdisciplinary simulation, and patient presentation phase. Basically, on this moment 1, we are literally the only one. We are the only lab in the world that has an interdisciplinary treatment planning team to serve the lab customers, the DSD Planning Center. First and only interdisciplinary digital planning service in the world. It's still today the only one. So, as I said, to be a good lab moment 1, you need to have top treatment planners, and that's exactly what we have. We have periodontists, we have prosthodontists, we have surgeons, we have orthodontists working in the DSD Planning Center to help you diagnose, treatment plan, explore, simulate, compare, decide, and present better stories to your patient. So, if you're looking for a lab that also can help you with moment 1, of course, I think that's one of our biggest differentiators. Moment 2 and 3. Moment 2, procedure planning. Moment 3, device manufacturing. Also big differentiators here for the DSD lab. Following the moment 1, on moment 2, we leverage the same experts that we have working on moment 1 to do the procedure planning. So after you develop this comprehensive big picture plan with us, you can deep dive with our team into the planning of each specific procedure. You can deep dive with our ortho team, with our TPS treatment planning service, to plan in details your aligner case. If it's with Invisalign or with any other system, our team will help you. We can become your ortho team, or we can collaborate with your orthodontist. Whatever suits you better. The same thing with implants. After the big picture planning, understanding that implants are part of the plan, post-case acceptance, we can deep dive into the implant planning and millimetrically evaluate the case with you and plan the implant procedure, plan the surgeries, plan the grafting, simulate all these things, and generate all the devices for you to execute that. And the same thing with restorative. So procedure planning and device manufacturing, we are very unique. First, because we help develop many of these guided techniques. We are at the forefront of guided dentistry. We are publishing scientific articles about many of these devices and many of these procedures. So we are a lab that understands guided dentistry. Most labs don't understand guided dentistry. So how to procedure plan and how to design devices to execute that plan. So how to design perio guides, endo guides, corticotomy guides, crown lengthening guides, gingivoplasty guides, prep guides, whatever you can imagine, implant guides, deprogrammers, bite splints. Most importantly, it's not only about designing the device, but it's designing the device in relationship to the big picture plan, to the diagnostic design, and to the procedure planning. That's the key. So the DSD lab is unique when it comes to moment one, exploration, interdisciplinary planning. And at the top when it comes to procedure planning and when it comes to device designing. And of course, once we get into the restoration, we have a bunch of differentiators as well. We invented the DSD natural restoration concept, the DSD direct concept. We created the copy-paste concept. We developed the first complete digital monolithic natural restorations with natural library, the digital smile donator concept. All these concepts that allows us to do beautiful CAD/CAM monolithic restorations with copy-paste concept and natural libraries and facially driven, respecting your prototype from the bite perspective, from the design perspective, and from the gingival perspective. Restorations that respect the plan. These are the trademarks, the main differentiators of the DSD lab that, of course, I'm biased to say, but that's what I believe makes us an extremely special lab to work with.